we're actually the heart of the airport, and all the navigation rails around the airport, the instrument landing system, the distance measuring equipment, the radars, the radios, talk to aircraft with, all that information comes from all the little boxes around the airfield, and all come into this department. We monitor it all here, and it all feeds up for air traffic control. In this little box here, we've got a thing known as ATIS, which is Automatic Terminal Information Service. And all the time we are transmitting weather information to aircraft automatically. This is done by lots and lots of sensors around the airfield, which is for wind, for weather, for temperature, the whole range of weather, and it's all fed into this computer, changed into a little automatic voice, and then transmitted constantly out to the aircraft, so there's no input from air traffic control at all. This is a new piece of equipment getting in now, which is to record segment surveillance radar data. So just like we have tape recorders for all the voice communications, this will record all the radar pictures, and if there's a problem then we can show the radar pictures and show anybody in the inquiry or anywhere else what went wrong, if it went wrong. These are our tape recorders, which are 32 channels. There's a main and standby. We always have to have everything duplicated within the airport, so if there's a failure we've got a backup system. This records everything the controllers say to the aircraft and everything the aircraft say back to the controller. It also records things like the non-directional beacon, which is transmitted all the time. And that sends a code out, the Morse code, LBA, LEEDS BRADFORD AIRPORT, and that's a transmitter situated on the airfield, so aircraft can home in on that and fly towards the airport. And we record that that's being transmitted all the time. We also record the intercom between the controllers when they're talking to each other. It's all chattering, and again this is in case there's an accident, then these tapes are impounded and they use them in inquiry afterwards. Right up here, this is called the Distance Measuring Equipment Remote Control Unit, and this controls a piece of equipment which is situated right across the far side of the airfield. What happens here is an aircraft transmits something to the equipment responds, and from the time it takes to do that cycle, the aircraft actually works out how far away it is from the airfield. So there's a remote control unit for it to decide whether it's on main and standby, we can switch it on and off from there. This is our consolidated fault plotting panel, and all it basically is all our equipment around the airfield, the ILS system, instrument landing system, the recorders, the time injection units, the receiver site which is across the far side, non-directional beacon which I've just explained to you, the power supplies for the equipment, the distance measuring equipment, and the other ILS system, because with two instrument landing systems, this is a system which automatically allows aircraft, gives aircraft guidance onto the runway. And we have two systems, one for each runway. When they're all green, we know that everything's serviceable as it should be here. When it goes to red, we know we've got a fault and we have to do something about it to maintain it. In this case here, we can't transmit two instrument landing systems at the same time, so we always expect those two to be red and those two to be green, or those two to be red and those two to be green. Okay? Down below it are the remote control units for two different ILS systems. We've got instrument landing systems, and in the centre is a control panel which controls the switching of both. That's also duplicated in air traffic, and they can switch from one to the other as they require it. All the transmitters for the airfield, we have three frequencies here: 123.75 megahertz, 121.5 megahertz, and 120.3 megahertz. So when aircraft are approaching the airfield, they'll call up on one frequency, 122.375, which is the radar frequency. And as they get close, they'll be handed over to the VCR, visual control room. You've been upstairs, and it's been explained to you already. They'll hand over to the other controller who'll bring him in onto the airfield. Again, we've got main standby, main standby, main standby. In case of a failure, we're ready to go, and we've got some backup. This is just a reproduction of the radio communication system upstairs that each controller's got. So in fact, the controller could actually come down here and operate from here and talk to aircraft from here. I can transmit now to an aircraft. If we listen, we can hear aircraft calling up. Okay, so we can monitor everything in this department. Below, that's a far field monitoring equipment for the instrument landing system. These are just power supplies, and that's just what we call the patch panel, so we can patch into certain lines and monitor the lines. That white aerial, that's the distance measuring equipment. If you look in the middle there, well, we've got the ACR 430 radar, the small little radar going around. You see that upstairs? Over there, the big radar, the big Watchman radar, that looks out to 60 miles. Across the far side, it's difficult to spot this here big building just behind that pillar there. That's the receiver site. And again, all that's in the receiver site are just things that look like our transmitters, but it's just when the aircraft talks to us, it comes in there. Then across there with some masts alongside it, that's the instrument landing glide path. And that gives the aircraft the angle of descent to the airfield. You can't see it right at the other end is the localizer, which gives him the airfield there. Well, there's three of those. There's one there, there's one further out, and there's one down by the localizer there. And that's called runway visual ranging equipment. And that will give us indication of how foggy it is, how far the pilots can see. There's a little light at one side and a mirror at the other side of that little strut across there. The light goes to one end, bounces back, and depending on how bright the light comes back to it, gives us a direct reading of runway visual range, how far the pilots are likely to be able to see. Very, very clever.